The Lotus Sutra, Reading with Explanation, Part 2. So before we get into the explanation part, let's read the Heart Sutra one more time. Prajna paramita, Heart Sutra. The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, while practicing the profound Prajna paramita, clearly saw that all five skandhas are empty, thus overcoming all suffering. Sariputra, form is no different from emptiness. Emptiness no different from form. Form is just emptiness, emptiness just form. Sensation, perception, volition, and consciousness are also like this. Sariputra, this is the emptiness of all dharmas. They neither arise nor cease, are neither defiled nor pure, neither increase nor decrease. For this reason, within emptiness there is no form, no sensation, perception, volition, or consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind. No sight, sound, scent, taste, touch, or thought. No seeing, even up to no thinking. No ignorance, nor end of ignorance. Even no aging and death, nor end of aging and death. No suffering, origin, cessation, or path. No wisdom and no attainment. Because nothing is attained, bodhisattvas maintain prajna paramita. Then their heart is without hindrance, and since without hindrance, without fear. Escaping upside-down dreamlike thinking and completely realizing nirvana. All Buddhas of all times maintain prajna paramita, thus attaining anuttara samyak sambodhi. Hence know prajna paramita is the all-powerful mantra, the great enlightening mantra, the unexcelled mantra, the unequaled mantra, able to dispel all suffering. This is true, not false. Therefore proclaim the Prajna Paramita mantra. Recite the mantra thus. Gate, gate, paragate, parasam gate, bodhisvaha. So now we are up to the section. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind. No sight, sound, scent, taste, touch, or thought. No seeing, even up to no thinking. So in this section, we are exploring the 18 realms, also known as the 18 consciousnesses. So 18 consciousnesses. There is the eye and sight, creating the seeing consciousness, also known as the visual consciousness. There is the ear and the sound, when connected together, create the hearing consciousness. The nose, which is the sensory organ, when it comes into contact with the environment with scent, it creates the smelling consciousness, also the nose consciousness. The tongue, coming into contact with taste, creates the tasting consciousness, also known as the tongue consciousness. The body, coming into contact with the external environment, is known as tactile consciousness. And then finally, the mind with thoughts create the thinking consciousness, also known as the mind consciousness. So eye is a realm, sight is a realm, seeing is also a realm. So that's 3. And if we times 3 by the 6 senses, we create the 18 consciousnesses, also known as the 18 realms. And so it's very important and interesting to understand this, because we are actually abiding in all these realms every day, all the time. Through meditation, we are able to place our awareness on each of these consciousnesses, on each of these realms, to experience them as they are. For example, if we open our eyes and we place our awareness on what we are seeing, we are abiding in the seeing consciousness. If we close our eyes and then we place our awareness on the sounds we are listening to, we are abiding in the auditory consciousness. The same happens with the smell, the tastes, the body, and the mind. If we are closing our eyes and just observing our thoughts, we are abiding in the mind consciousness. So just understand that these 18 consciousnesses are all within our reality. And that is how we experience our entire life. If we are able to understand where the sensations are, if we are able to control where to place our awareness, we will have much more mastery of how we want to play out our lives. And so here, Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara is saying that within emptiness, none of these 18 consciousnesses exist. They only exist within the form realm, the physical realm. Within the emptiness realm, this is all gone. No ignorance, nor end of ignorance. Even no aging and death, nor end of aging and death. So here, the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara is referencing the 12 links of dependent origination, which also explains how we have came into being, how we have came into existence. So the 12 links of dependent origination starts with ignorance. From ignorance, we go to formations. Formations create consciousness, which creates name and form, which then creates the 6 sense organs, the sense spheres, which creates contact, which creates feeling, which is also sensation, which then creates craving, and then clinging, which creates becoming, birth, and then age and death, which goes back to ignorance. And so this is a very, very important truth to understand, because by understanding the 12 links of dependent origination, we are able to understand how we were born in the first place, why we have feelings in the first place, why we crave, why we have suffering, and how to end it all, most importantly. When the Buddha was expounding the 12 links of dependent origination, he famously quoted, "With the arising of this, that arises. With the cessation of this, that ceases." So here, let's quickly look deeper into the 12 links. So it all begins with ignorance, avidya. What is ignorance? Is not understanding real from false, right from wrong. By that, the fundamental teachings say that reality is fundamentally impermanent, conditioned by causes and effects, and is fundamentally empty in nature. If we don't understand this truth, we are abiding within ignorance. We believe that things are permanent. We believe in the permanent self. We don't understand cause and effect, and we don't realize the emptiness around us. Through ignorance, we create formations, sankhara, which is also known as karma or action. And by that, we create the 3 karmic formations, being the bodily karma, verbal karma, and mental karma. We create karma with our actions, our speech, and our thoughts. With these formations, it gives rise to the 6 consciousnesses, the eye, ear, nose, mouth, body, and mind consciousness. And within these 6 consciousnesses, it gives rise to the external environment, which is name and form. The things that we see externally create the name and form that we are then making contact with within our consciousness. That external environment gives rise to the 6 sense spheres, which is also known as the 6 sensory organs, because only from having name and form do the 6 sense organs arise, and that is how we are able to make contact with our 6 sense organs with the external environment, being name and form. When the 6 sense organs come into contact with the name and form of the external environment, it creates phassa, which is contact. Contact gives rise to feeling, which is sensation. Sensation gives rise to craving. We crave what we like, or we have a repulsion towards what we don't like. And so that craving creates clinging. So the clinging is we want more of it. We want more of it. And by having that, we create the becoming. We create the sense of ego. We create the identity and the identification with everything that's come before, with the clinging, with the craving, with the feeling and contact. We're beginning to identify with it, and that's why we are becoming. And eventually, when the karma has been created, then it leads on to birth, and we manifest into a physical form, or we manifest into any other form. With birth, there has to be aging and death, which is where all the suffering comes from. And then that goes again in a circle. From age and death, ignorance continues, which leads to formations, consciousness, and so on and so forth. And so by understanding the 12 links of dependent origination, we are able to reverse this. Because the Buddha said, with the cessation of this, that ceases. If we don't want to age and die, we have to stop birth. If we want to stop birth, we must stop becoming. We must stop this identification of the ego. If we want to stop identification of the ego, we have to stop clinging to the things that we like, clinging to the things that we don't like. And to do that, we must stop the craving first, which is created by the sensations. To stop sensations, we must stop contact, which means we must close our 6 sense organs and dwell inwards. And by dwelling inwards, the name and form of the external environment starts to dissolve, which ends consciousness, it ends the bodily karma, verbal karma, mental karma, and then it ends ignorance, because then we stop discriminating between this and that, between right and wrong, and between good and bad, and all these varieties of discriminations. When we are able to stop discriminating, the mind starts to observe reality the way it really is, which is to penetrate the nature of impermanence, emptiness, and nirvana. No suffering, origin, cessation, or path. And so here, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is referencing the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths was the topic of the first sermon from the Buddha immediately after he attained enlightenment. And he expounded the Four Noble Truths to his first 5 disciples. These Four Noble Truths talk about suffering. The first truth is the truth of suffering. So we are able to understand suffering and identify it within our own experience. The second noble truth is the truth of the origins of suffering, the causes of suffering, being the 3 poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. The third noble truth is the truth of the cessation of suffering. And so that is how we are able to attain liberation from suffering. And then we have the fourth noble truth, the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. What we must do to end suffering. And so this is the path towards liberation. Going back to the first noble truth, it's very important for us to have mindfulness and awareness of our suffering states. If we cannot identify our suffering, it's hard to become liberated from it. So knowing what suffering is very important. Things like pain, stress, craving, anxiety, over-attachment. Everyone is bound by their own suffering, and everyone's suffering is very different. It's very important for us to identify what is the suffering states within our own experience. The second truth is to help us identify the causes for our suffering. So namely, how is our suffering created by attachment towards the things that we like? How is it created by the aversion towards the things that we hate? And how that has been shaped by our ignorance of not being able to view reality as it is. When we feel anger, hatred, jealousy, anxiety, a lot of the times it's because we have a very strong aversion towards the things we don't like. Then there's greed, which is strong attachment to the things that we do like. When we have something, there is great fear in losing it, great fear in having it stolen or taken away. When we don't have it, there is great fear in not being able to get it at all. And then there's the suffering from ignorance. It is because of ignorance that we don't accept the way things are. We don't accept suffering. We only accept joy. We don't accept bad people. We only accept good. We don't accept wrong. We only accept right. The ignorance comes from the fact that we don't realize they are creating each other. We can't have good without the bad. We can't have right without the wrong, nor can we have happiness without sadness. And so if we are able to understand they are creating themselves, they are mutually codependent, we won't have attachment towards one and aversion towards the other one, knowing that they are creating each other, and our attachment and aversion is also fundamentally codependent. The truth of the cessation of suffering is the importance of understanding that liberation is possible. There is a way out, and that's very important. This is where the Buddha comes in and says, I have walked the path. The path is possible. You can do it yourself. There is a way to overcome our greed, anger, and ignorance. Usually, he explains the opposite extreme. So using generosity to overcome greed, using compassion to overcome anger, using wisdom to overcome ignorance. The fourth noble truth is the truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, also known as the Noble Eightfold Path. So this is the path towards liberation. This is a very important practice because all Buddhists or all cultivators seeking the way, seeking liberation, should abide within the Noble Eightfold Path. So now I'm going to give a very brief explanation of the Noble Eightfold Path. And if you're interested, you can do some more research on your own, because we are now veering a bit further away from the Heart Sutra. The Noble Eightfold Path is made up of 8 limbs: right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood. Then there's right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. We can categorize these 8 limbs into 3 baskets. The first basket being morality. So this is to do with the body and conduct. We have to have right action, right speech, right livelihood. Right action is the precepts: no killing, lying, stealing, no sexual misconduct, and no intoxication of the mind. Speech means right speech, no lying, no misleading speech, no over-flattery. Right livelihood means to have a good profession, a moral profession, so not one that is creating suffering, like dealing drugs, dealing weapons, dealing alcohol, but things that are more wholesome, things that encourage and inspire people towards goodness. Things like being a teacher, being a cleaner, being a farmer, being a doctor, things that create positive value for the world. The second category is meditation, which is also the mind. So here we must practice right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Right effort means diligence, which means doing the good things more and more, and then doing the bad things less and less. Trying hard and being very sincere with our practice is right effort. And then there's right mindfulness, which is to always know where our mindfulness is, to live in the present moment, and to always cultivate a very high level of awareness, of mindfulness. And then there is concentration, which is about meditative concentration, knowing how to practice meditation to improve our concentration. Concentration will also improve our mindfulness, as well as our ability to practice with right effort. The thing with these limbs is that if we are able to positively cultivate one limb, it will benefit all the other 7. And so if we practice the 8 limbs together, the benefits are inconceivable because they are all benefiting each other and then building on each other. The last basket is wisdom, which is about right understanding and right thought. Right understanding is knowing what is right from wrong, what is good and bad, what is real and unreal. So basically the teachings of the Buddha is all about right understanding, knowing the teachings of emptiness, the teachings of impermanence, non-self, nirvana, cause and effect. And then there's right thought. So being able to always maintain positive, wholesome thoughts, thoughts of generosity, kindness, compassion, peace, patience. And so we are able to cultivate a wholesome mind using wholesome thoughts, while also at the same time getting rid of the negative thoughts, thoughts of greed, anger, hatred, jealousy, anxiety. And these 8 limbs make up the Noble Eightfold Path, which is being referenced in the Heart Sutra. So when Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva says, no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, he's saying that while we are cultivating the 4 Noble Truths, which is a very important Buddhist teaching, we must realize that this is all within the realm of form and within the realm of emptiness. None of this exists. Within the realm of emptiness, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, no path, no 4 Noble Truths. But that doesn't mean that we have to abide only in emptiness. We have to abide in both and create the middle way, the practice where we are equally established in emptiness as much as we are in form. Within form, we have to cultivate all these wholesome practices, the 4 Noble Truths, the 8 Noble Paths. But then we also have to have one foot grounded firmly on emptiness so that we can do everything without strong attachment to it. No wisdom and no attainment. Because nothing is attained, bodhisattvas maintain prajna paramita. Then their heart is without hindrance. So once again, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is referencing wisdom and how within emptiness, there's not even wisdom. The wisdom, again, is prajna, which is the heart of the Buddha, the one essence of the Dharma, the Buddha's teachings. And so this is why this sutra is the Heart Sutra. This is the heart of the Buddha, the Sutra of Prajna. And so within emptiness, there's nothing, not even wisdom. Attainment here is referring to nirvana, enlightenment, Buddhahood, the highest possible state of being. So this is the ultimate goal of all Buddhist practitioners in the Bodhisattva path, in the path of cultivation. But within emptiness, even attainment doesn't exist. So that is why in the Diamond Sutra, even the Buddha says, real attainment is the attainment of non-attainment. Ultimately, if we are attached to our attainments, we have not clearly understood emptiness. If we were to understand emptiness, then we will not be attached to any attainment, knowing that it is equally empty just as much as it is real. And so by understanding emptiness, bodhisattvas are able to maintain prajna paramita. Again, prajna paramita means wisdom to cross the other shore. And prajna paramita is understanding this teaching, the Heart Sutra. And with this understanding, one doesn't abide in dualistic concepts and realizes real emptiness. So if we don't abide in any extreme, what is good and bad, what I like and don't like, what is right and wrong, what I should and shouldn't do, and we don't have all this overthinking, because a lot of the problems and sufferings that we create is created in the mind. And if we are able to fathom the teachings within the Heart Sutra, realize real emptiness, we will stop abiding in dualistic concepts, and the mind will be free. The mind will be completely liberated from overthinking, from illusion, and from ignorance. Finally, a heart without hindrance is a mind that abides nowhere. It is free, completely liberated. This is the magic of emptiness, also known as the middle way. Because we do not attach to any extremes, we use the Dharma to detach us from the extreme views we are bound by. But once we are detached, the Dharma has served its purpose, we let go of the Dharma, and then we return to the middle way and emptiness. And when the mind doesn't abide anywhere, it is infinitely free and completely liberated. And so this is the meaning of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, perfect, unexcelled, supreme enlightenment. This is the end of part 2 of the Heart Sutra reading and explanation. In the next section, we go deeper into the state of the Buddha, as well as analyze the mantra of the Heart Sutra. See you there.